Lenny McAllister is a conservative political pundit who once ran for Congress. He joins us live this morning from Pittsburgh. Mr. McAllister, excuse me, thanks for being with us. Did the American public gain anything from this debate?
Absolutely. I think they are starting to get a better idea of who you can take seriously within the GOP field and who are the also-rans.
And who might that be, based on what you saw? Who could they take seriously?
I think Marco Rubio is a serious candidate. I think that the Republicans may have their opportunity to have their lightning in a bottle moment with Marco Rubio. Maybe not quite the same way they did with Obama in 2008, but he is showing himself to be a leader amongst this field. I think that's somebody that people need to take very much attention to. I think that somebody like a Jeb Bush is starting to look more and more like Mitt Romney from 2011, where he's having these lackluster performances during the debates. And I think that Republicans went along with Mitt Romney because they were told he could win a general election in 2012. He didn't. I don't know if they're willing to go along for the same exact ride with Jeb Bush 4 years later. So if he continues to look more like Romney 2011 now in 2015, Jeb Bush may not even get to Florida
So
next year.
who would the not serious candidates be?
I don't know how serious Dr. Ben Carson is. I think he's at the top of the polls, but he continues to show a very shallow knowledge of the in-depth issues that people really want strong and focused solutions to. I think Donald Trump should have dominated this debate. It was an economic debate that ended up becoming a food fight with the commentators. That's not good for his brand. I think he will continue to crest in the polls and continue to drop in the polls, because if there was one thing he should have dominated with a debate, it was the economy. He did none of that. As a matter of fact, he disappeared during much of the debate. That is very bad for the Donald.
Mr. McAllister, what does it say about the process when the people who seem to get the most notice last night are getting attention because they went after the media? After all, it was Ted Cruz himself who said the debate should be about issues. So on the issues, who appeared to be the most knowledgeable?
I think that you look at Marco Rubio. I think he did extremely well. I think Chris Christie did very well for himself last night. There are plenty of Republicans that said, hey, this was the Chris Christie we wanted to run in 2012. This is why we were trying to push him into the race. He did a lot better for himself than anticipated. I think Carly Fiorina did very well for herself as well. And I think John Kasich is showing himself as somebody that is that's on the second tier, but shows a lot of in-depth knowledge, somebody that you might want to take into consideration that if he doesn't win and doesn't become the guy, he might be the number 2 as a VP candidate that can bring in Ohio. I would not be surprised if he's starting to look to slot himself either as the nominee or somebody on the ticket.
And finally, before I let you go, after the debate, NBC saying if you're going to run for president, you have to be able to handle those tough questions from the media. These are men and a woman who is going to have to go face-to-face with Vladimir Putin of Russia. So with that as a barometer, who seemed up to the task?
I think, like I said, I think Carly Fiorina did a good job. I think Marco Rubio did a good job. I think Chris Christie did a good job. I think that Ted Cruz showed a lot more mettle than he had done previously. And I think that Kasich and Huckabee did some good things for themselves as well. Again, you start looking at the two outsiders at the top of the polls, they should have done a lot more than they did. Carson because he's the front runner, and Trump because this was an economic debate, and neither one of them really shined last night the way they needed to. And I think that's problematic for them. They'll continue to raise money. They'll continue to get the imagination of a fourth or a third, well, not even a third, a fourth or a fifth of the electorate, but that's not going to be enough to carry you through the SEC primaries, not enough to carry you through past South Carolina.
Lenny McAllister joining us from Pittsburgh this morning. Mr. McAllister, thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless.